The moment their ship docked within the cavernous bay of the Liberator, Hacked felt a shift in the air. It wasn't just the change in atmosphere or the subtle vibrations of the massive carrier, it was the palpable sense of anticipation that seemed to permeate everything. Before Jeb could even finish the post-docking checklist, Cruz was at his side, his usual composure betraying hints of urgency. "Captain Sheets, a word in private, if you please," he said, gesturing towards the small conference room adjacent to the bridge. Hack's whiskers twitched with curiosity as he watched Jeb follow Cruz. The Hibbard navigator couldn't help but edge closer to the door, his sensitive ears straining to catch snippets of their conversation. "Jeb, I need you to understand something," Cruz began, his voice low but intense. "What's happening now, your escape, this rebellion, it's always been part of Julius IX's long-term strategy." Hacked could almost hear Jeb's eyebrows rising. "You're saying you planned all this? The races, the corruption, everything?" Cruz sighed heavily. "Not exactly. We always intended to free the racers, to use the system's corruption against itself. But your actions, your alliances, they've accelerated our timeline considerably." There was a pause, and Hacked imagined Cruz running a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration he'd observed before. "To be frank, we've had to improvise quite a bit. Some aspects of this operation are, well, let's say they're more hodgepodge than I'm entirely comfortable with." Hack's fur stood on end as he processed the implications. They weren't just escapees or rebels, they were now key players in a galactic chess game that had been in motion for years. "So what now?" Jeb's voice carried a mix of determination and wariness that Hacked had come to associate with their most daring races. "Now," Cruz replied, "we meet with Grand Admiral Decker. He'll bring you and the other racers up to speed on the larger picture. But Jeb," his voice dropped even lower, forcing Hacked to strain to hear, "you need to know that what's coming. It's bigger than anything we've faced before. The fate of entire worlds could hinge on what we do next." As Cruz and Jeb emerged from the conference room, Hacked quickly busied himself with his console, pretending he hadn't been eavesdropping, but his mind was racing faster than any ship he'd ever navigated. They had entered this day as prisoners, as unwilling participants in a cruel sport. Now, on the cusp of something monumental, Hacked realized that their races had been preparing them for this moment all along. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain: the crew of the Broken Promise was ready to face them head-on. As the call came through for all racers to assemble, Hacked felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Their greatest race was about to begin, and this time, the stakes were nothing less than the freedom of the galaxy itself. Hacked scurried alongside Jeb and the rest of the Broken Promise's crew as they made their way through the labyrinthine corridors of the Liberator. The sheer scale of the carrier was overwhelming. Hack's whiskers twitched constantly, trying to take in every detail of this marvel of engineering. They entered a vast auditorium, already filling with former racers from various species. Hack noticed the mixture of excitement, confusion, and wariness on their faces, emotions he knew were mirrored in his own expression. As they took their seats, a low hum reverberated through the ship. Hack's sensitive ears picked up the subtle change in vibration. "We're jumping to FTL," he whispered to Jeb, who nodded grimly. Moments later, Grand Admiral Marty Decker strode onto the stage, his presence immediately commanding the attention of every being in the room. Hacked couldn't help but notice the way Jeb straightened, a look of respect and recognition in his eyes. "Fellow freedom fighters," Decker began, his voice carrying easily through the auditorium, "I know you have questions. I know the past few hours have been a whirlwind of change and revelation. It's time you understood the full scope of what we're facing and the crucial role you all play in what's to come." The auditorium fell silent as Decker activated a holographic display showing a map of the galaxy. Vast swathes of it were colored in an ominous red. "This is the Empire's current reach," Decker explained. "For too long, they've ruled through fear, corruption, and spectacles of cruelty like the races you've been forced to endure." Hacked felt a ripple of anger pass through the crowd, his own fur bristling at the memory of their ordeal. "But what the Empire doesn't know," Decker continued, a hint of a smile playing at his lips, "is that their greatest mistake was bringing you all together." The hologram shifted, showing pinpoints of light scattered across the galaxy. These are our allies' worlds, systems, even factions within the Empire itself, all waiting for the right moment to strike. And you, my friends, are the spark that will ignite this rebellion." Hack's eyes widened as he began to grasp the enormity of what Decker was suggesting. They weren't just escaped prisoners anymore, they were being asked to become the face of a galactic revolution. As Decker delved deeper into the strategy, explaining how the racers' skills and experiences would be invaluable in the coming conflict, Hack glanced around at his fellow former prisoners. He saw determination hardening in their eyes, replacing the fear and uncertainty of moments before. The hybrid navigator felt a surge of pride and purpose. All those races, all the near-death experiences, and hard-won victories, they had been preparing for this moment all along. As the briefing continued, and the Liberator hurtled through hyperspace towards Julius 9, Hack knew that their greatest challenge lay ahead. But for the first time in years, he felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. As the Liberator continued its FTL journey towards Julius 9, Grand Admiral Decker's voice took on a more solemn tone. Hack felt the shift in the atmosphere, his whiskers twitching with anticipation. "What I'm about to tell you," Decker began, his eyes scanning the room, "will change everything. As of this moment, Julius 9 is officially declaring war against the Empire." A collective gasp rippled through the auditorium. Hack glanced at Jeb, seeing a mixture of determination and grim satisfaction on his captain's face. Decker continued, his voice steady and resolute. "We are not alone in this fight. For years, we've been building a network of allies across the galaxy. Planets, systems, resistance groups, all waiting for the right moment to strike." The holographic display shifted, revealing an intricate web of connections spanning the galaxy. Hack's eyes widened as he realized the true scale of the rebellion they were now part of. "But every revolution needs a symbol," Decker said, his gaze settling on Jeb and then sweeping across the gathered racers. "Something to rally behind, to inspire hope in those who have lost it. We believe you, all of you, can be that symbol." Hack felt a shiver run down his spine. Him, a symbol of hope? The idea seemed almost laughable, and yet. "You've survived the Empire's cruelest games," Decker continued. "You formed alliances where they wanted only enemies. You've shown the galaxy that even in the darkest of circumstances, unity and determination can prevail." As Decker spoke, Hack saw the impact of his words on his fellow racers. Beings who had been bitter rivals just days ago were now nodding in agreement, a shared purpose uniting them. "We're not asking you to be soldiers," Decker clarified. "We're asking you to be beacons of hope, to share your stories, to show the galaxy that the Empire can be defeated. Your races were broadcast across the stars now. Let's use that fame to ignite a revolution." Jeb stood up, his voice carrying across the auditorium. "You can count on us, Admiral. We've been racing for our lives, now it's time to race for something bigger." A chorus of cheers and affirmations erupted from the gathered racers. Hack found himself swept up in the emotion, his small voice joining the others in a pledge of support. As the meeting concluded and the racers began to disperse, discussing their new roles in excited whispers, Hack felt a profound sense of purpose settling over him. They had entered this carrier as escaped prisoners, but they would leave it as the vanguard of a galactic rebellion. The hybrid navigator looked at his crewmates, his family, and saw the same determination in their eyes. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The race for freedom was no longer just about them, it was about liberating an entire galaxy. As the Liberator hurtled towards Julius 9, Hack knew that the greatest adventure of their lives was just beginning. And for once, he couldn't wait to see what lay beyond the finish line. The Liberator dropped out of FTL with a gentle shudder that Hack felt in his bones. He rushed to the nearest viewport, his large eyes widening at the sight before him. Julius 9 hung in space, a jewel of blue and green that seemed to promise everything they had been denied for so long. "It's beautiful," Hack whispered, his voice filled with awe. Jeb placed a hand on Hack's shoulder, his own eyes fixed on the planet. "That it is, my friend. That it is." Grand Admiral Decker's voice came over the ship-wide comm system. "Attention all former racers. We are now in orbit around Julius 9, your new home." Hack's ears perked up at the word home. It felt strange, almost foreign after so long. Decker continued, "As a gesture of good faith and in recognition of your ordeal, you have all been granted immediate citizenship on Julius 9. This is your world now, as much as it is ours." A cheer went up from the gathered racers, the sound of joy and disbelief mingling in the air. Furthermore, Decker added, "You will all have 1 week of complete freedom on the planet. Use this time to rest, to heal, and to consider your future role in our cause." Hacked felt a lump form in his throat. Freedom, real, unrestrained freedom. It was almost too much to comprehend. "Remember," Decker's voice softened, "while we hope you'll join us in our fight against the Empire, you are under no obligation to do so. Your citizenship is unconditional. This is not a race, not a competition. It's a chance for you to reclaim your lives." As Decker's announcement concluded, Hacked looked around at his crewmates. Killian was trying to hide the moisture in his eyes, while others were embracing, laughing, some even crying openly. Jeb gathered his crew close. "Well, folks," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "we made it. Whatever comes next, we face it as free beings." They made their way to the shuttle bay, joining the throng of former racers eager to set foot on their new home. As they boarded the shuttle that would take them to the planet's surface, Hacked felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The small Hibbard looked back at the broken Promise, still docked in the Liberator's massive bay. That ship had been their prison, their home, their lifeline. Now, it stood as a testament to everything they had endured and overcome. As the shuttle's doors closed and it began its descent towards Julius 9, Hacked realized that their greatest race was indeed just beginning. But this time, they weren't racing against each other or against a cruel system. They were racing towards a future of their own making, towards freedom not just for themselves but for an entire galaxy. The surface of Julius 9 grew closer, a new world full of promise and possibility. Hacked took a deep breath, ready to take his first steps as a free being, as a citizen, and perhaps as a symbol of hope for countless others still trapped under the Empire's rule. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you loved it. Please remember to subscribe if you did like it so you can see more videos like this. And please give us a like and a comment too. I'll see you in the next one.